Hey babes, welcome back. I got so excited after filming last week's episode talking about my jobs and teasing all the great stories that I had that I just had to jump right in and film this week's episode, which is all about the crazy jobs I've had. I made a list. It's like 13. I got so many stories and I'm legit concerned about the length of this episode because if I tell each one in the detail that I really think these stories deserve, it's gonna be way too long. But okay. Jumping right in. The first official job I had was when I was 14 at Burger King. Minnesota lets you work at age 14, or I did back then. This was a big deal. I made like $4.50 an hour. I lived close, so I would bike, and I used to eat a lot of the food, probably way more food than I was supposed to. I would just like shove food down my face, like these like frozen cookie dough chunks in the back. I'd go in the back freezer and just like go to town. I also operated the headset there. Quick tip for all of you guys who have not worked fast food. When you get your food in the, line, like the drive-thru, and they give you your food, you need to jet. You need to leave. Like if you want to check what you got really quick, look inside that bag and then you drive on out of there. Because if your car stays in that drive-thru lane every second, we as a team would get dinged. We would get docked points. And so sometimes like a mom would turn around and yell at her kids for 5 minutes and we would all get like these shady performance reviews because the fast food companies of the world were monitoring how fast we could get them in and out. This was a minute ago, so I don't know if they still operate like this, but everyone who works in fast food, you'll have to tell me if this is still the case. And everyone who goes to fast food, you need to head on out of there quick for the sake of those employees serving you your fries. All right. Number 2, okay, when I was 15, I went to work at a water company. This is where I was introduced to that song that I talked about in the last episode. Okay, this water company, I won't tell you the name. I don't think they're in business and they shouldn't be because of really crappy employees like myself. Okay, listen to this. We would all get in a shady looking van and go to random neighborhoods in Minneapolis, get out, and then walk door to door. I was 15, walking by myself at night, door to door in sketchy neighborhoods, not cool. We would go to your door, we'd knock on your door, and we would tell you we're with a water company. We're just out and about, just wanting to test your water, and we're concerned about the water in the area, so we're wondering, can we get a little sample of your tap water in this handy Ziploc bag? And then the homeowner will be like, you just want my water? And we're like, yes, please, okay. We get their water, we write down some information, it's totally free, and then we say, you know what, thank you so much, we're gonna call you in a couple days with the score of your water. Okay, then we all go back to the building, back to the home base, and then a few days later we do indeed test everyone's water. We call them back, and we tell them, oh my God, your water's got all these like crazy levels of blah, 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 and then we try to sell them a water softener. There was nothing wrong with their tap water, it just wasn't like 100% pure, and the average consumer is uninformed about like what's in tap water. And so we would like throw all these crazy numbers at them, and then they would buy these water softeners. Here's where it got crazy though. So our bosses were like 18, like not like the head bosses, but like the bosses that kind of watched over us teenagers in the van. And they weren't like super qualified, and so they would just like take us to the movies. And then we'd all take our little Ziploc bags and fill them up at the water fountain at the movie theater or the gas station. And then we'd write a little star on that information to go with that Ziploc bag. And then we'd go back to the office the next day. And if there was a star, that meant it was a fake account. So we drove this company out of business by like straight up lying about this water that we were collecting. Do you see what I'm saying? We just like went out and hung out for 4 hours and then came back and pretended we got water samples because there was no accountability. What's weird is we'd come back to the actual central offices and the two bosses would be making out on the couch in the dark. So that business was destined to fail from the start. Okay. Next company I worked at a movie theater for one day. I absolutely hated it and I felt really bad that I'd gotten the job and then I wanted to quit right away because as you'll see, I have a history of doing that. And so my sweet dad called them up and said, my daughter's underage, she can't work there because you're showing R-rated movies and that's not legal for her to be in the theater. So I got out of this really crappy job. I hated it. All you souls who work in the movie theaters, you are saints. I will say, in my one day that I was there, I got to go upstairs and go through all the movie posters and I got like 10 giant Angelina Jolie posters and put them all over my room. Okay. Next one, another one day stint. I worked at Taco Bell for one day. I just couldn't hang, so I just didn't come back. I think I still had I don't have the uniform anymore, but I had the uniform under my bed for like 2 years. Okay. Then I worked at a Japanese restaurant. I served sake, which is illegal. I was like 16. You're not allowed to serve alcohol as a minor. And you know edamame? You know what edamame looks like? It's like almost like a pea pod, and then inside there's the little peas, and you eat them. as a waitress, I had no idea what those were. And so I would serve edamame to the table, and then there'd be like the pea pods just sitting there, like the shells basically. And I didn't know that you ate the inside and not the outside. So I would never remove their old edamame, and they'd order more and I'd be like, you have some right here. Are you gonna eat this? Not knowing, because I wasn't properly trained, that that's not how edamame works. Okay, next, I worked at Maribel's restaurant in Decatur as a waitress. I'm not a good waitress, it's not for me. And I had a giant plate, there was a party of like 20 people. I had a giant plate of steak, and you know steak is like all that sauce on it. I accidentally spilt all of that juicy steak sauce crap on some guy's white button-up shirt. I did that. I still remember, I feel really bad about that. I didn't get a tip. Okay, then I nannied for that cute little kid, Josh. And that's where I wrote the song Conversation with a Rock Star on their piano when he was napping. Yep. Okay, then I went to Texas and I worked at Monotronics. It was a customer service place. I hated it. They said I talked too fast in all my performance reviews. Imagine that. And I also got reprimanded all the time for dressing too punk. And they'd be like, you're not dressing professional enough. And I'd be like, I see where you're coming from with that. At the same time, this is a phone customer service thing. So anyway, I quit that and I got a job at one of my favorite jobs ever. It was a vintage store in Deep Ellum, Texas. It was called Counterculture, and I ran that store. So at the old Monotronics, I made $12 an hour, which was amazing. It was like millions of dollars to me. And I worked for 4 hours a night. At this new place, I made half of that, and I worked 8 hours a day, and I was still happier. I loved working at this freaking thrift store. It was huge. I was the only employee there, so I was like in charge. I got to fold clothes, I got to dust off boots, but I also got to like help sew some of the stuff too, so it felt like I was in the fashion industry. It was super fun, and I like ran that store. I loved it. I felt like I was part of a community. And I had to take the bus from my college, which I don't remember what city that was in, but it was like 15-20 minutes into Deep Ellum. And so often I would close out the store and I would miss the bus that came by my store. So I would have to walk through the entire downtown at night, like 20 minutes. Shady, sketchy as hell. Like my sister got me some mace, but it was very scary every time. I had like a really crappy cell phone. I couldn't afford minutes, but I would still pretend to talk on the phone walking down the street so people would know like, hey, if you kill me, people will miss me. My sister on the end of the other end of the line will miss me. That was my trick. Okay, then I worked at Target. You guys know about that one. It was the first shift, and so I would have to wake up at like 3:30 in the morning. It still stresses me out to think about. Drive there at 4, and at 4 in the morning, I would stock shelves. Like I was like one of those like shelf stocker people, and I'd like take the big cardboard boxes off the truck, and it was freezing. Okay, then I would put all the items on the shelf. It was like dark in the whole store, and they would play obnoxious pop music all morning long until the store opened at like 9. So for like 6 hours of my life, can't do the math, 5 hours of my life, they would play the loudest, most annoying music, and it drove me crazy. Like I just want silence in the morning. I want silence all the time. Who am I kidding? Okay. Couple left. Then I worked at ADM in Decatur, Illinois as a taste tester. This was awesome. I worked with all old ladies. I was like the only young one in there, and we would taste food for different properties. And so one of the properties that I remember specifically is butyric. One of them is baby vomit. There'd be rancid, there'd be old gas. I mean, there were just like the craziest terminologies that we would take and make up to then quantify what degree is in that food. So we taste, for example, like a power bar, or we didn't even know what it was sometimes. We would taste it and we would label all the descriptives as a certain number, and then we would try different ones to compare it. It was crazy, but it was pretty fun. From that business, with all the old ladies, they found out I could sew, so I got another business making t-shirt quilts out of older kids' old t-shirts. This was amazing. I sold those quilts for $200 a pop, which was like half my rent. I was in heaven. Okay, last one, wrapping this up. I told you it'd be long. Jimmy John's. I teased this one last week. Okay, I loved Jimmy John's. I really enjoyed working there. I got promoted to like almost manager. It was a big deal for me. Okay, here's what's up. So you know the bread goes in the ovens, and part of the job description as an employee when you're baking the bread is to take the pan out and you have to thump the bottom of the pan, and that loosens the bread off. That's like part of your job description. Okay, so when you thump this giant pan, what happens? The pan always gets you right here. And my head manager had lines all over from the pan, like all the other employees had that, and they had these red like baker's gloves, oven mitts, and they only came up to here, but everyone had all these scars up here. So I saw this and I was like, this is crazy. And I was always so scared of having to thump the bread and then I'd get burned because I saw like it happened to everybody. So I would complain when the head manager came all the time. I'd be like, dude, we need better gloves. He'd be like, dude, take off your choker. I'd be like, get me better gloves and we'll talk. Actually, I didn't say that because I don't want to get fired. But so one day it happened to me. I too got the burn marks, and it was only like seriously in the last 2 or 3 years they disappeared. You can probably find older pictures where the lines are in there. It hurt so bad. I got crazy intense burns. I thought they would last my whole life. So I quit and I Googled Decatur lawyer and I found a guy and we got me $2,500 for this, which was amazing, which I used to go visit my best friends in Dallas, Texas. So it all worked out. But I really hope Jimmy John's has since replaced these gloves because for real, like, it's not right. If you're working like this crappy job, making this crappy hourly wage, you shouldn't have scars on your body to prove it. Do you know what I'm saying? PSA reminder for all of you guys out there. So yeah, I guess after that, I started custom catastrophes. I started sewing tutus at my friend's kitchen table, started sewing tutus at festivals. Tutus and Squiddies, they have been my lifeblood and my story for a long time. And now I get to mostly make music, which is pretty freaking fantastic. Much better than Target and the movie theater and Taco Bell and Monotronics. So thanks to all of you guys who care about our music enough to help us not have to get these other jobs, which I'll go back to, like if I ever have to, I for real will, and I will just love it and enjoy it and be grateful and not complain. Yeah, so those were some of my crazy job stories. I am sure that in me telling my stories, you've got some amazing ones of your own. So why don't you expand on this episode, leave a comment below about your craziest job story, all the insane stuff you've gotten into, and then that way we can all read about each other's experiences, so it's not just me rambling on for 10 minutes about my job. Oh, 12 minutes, crap. Okay, wrapping this up. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting my music, so I don't have to work at Target, but I will if I have to. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I want to come invite you to check out my brand new REL Show Patreon page. I've added some really sick new benefits, rewards for you, so please come be a part of it. Help me make the REL Show every single week.